Good morning. Merry Christmas. Welcome to this circle where we celebrate today an annual tradition we have of this music-filled spiritual gathering on the edge of Christmas, and also a time in which we tell the story that gives us this season. This year we tell the story through a number of voices from this circle who have agreed to video record for us some of their thoughts. So we will intersperse the music we hear with those voices this morning. This is a circle where we're each invited to take our place, where we each have a place, regardless of our age or our stage, whatever questions we carry within us, whatever fears we hold, whatever hopes we have, whatever despair takes us captive, whether we're in a wonderful season of our lives or whether we're in a difficult season in our lives. There is a place for each of us in this circle, and we are welcome here today. We gather humbly on this land which has been the ancestral lands of the Papas-Chase Nation for many generations. We gather in gratitude for the Cree people of this land, our Treaty 6 partners and our Métis neighbors. And as we gather, we honor the culture, the language, the traditions, the spiritualities of our Indigenous neighbors, and we seek to mend our wounded history with one another in the telling of truth and in the pursuit of reconciliation. And we seek to together build a more respectful future with one another. This is the season of the year in which we celebrate an ancient story, and yet a story we're still writing with our lives. It has long been a practice in our tradition to count the Sundays in this season with candlelight. In the growing darkness of our hemisphere, as we make our way towards winter solstice and as we make our way toward the great festival of light we celebrate in the Christian tradition, we light candles in this darkness. We light a candle for vision, to see beyond what is, and to envision what is possible. That world we dream of, that world our story has angels sing of, a just and more compassionate world. And we light a candle for significance. Even as one flame seems so insignificant, we light a candle to remember that no word or action is insignificant. No person, no creature, no being is insignificant. And our smallest deeds and our most faltering words can make the world of difference. And we light a candle for solidarity. To stand with those who make their way in deepest darkness, to stand with those who are often invisible, those who experience unspeakable suffering. And in this week, we stand with those in Aleppo and those who have made flight from Syria, those who are taking refuge around the world in refugee camps, those we welcome to this country. We light a final candle in this season for the power of story and for the power of song. And today we tell the ancient story we celebrate in this season in the gift of song. As we light this candle, we recognize the power of story to inspire our commitment to birth what the world needs most. Human beings fully alive to our capacity to love, our capacity to care, our capacity to create the peace the story puts every year in the Song of Angels.
It's time for our all ages. I'd invite anyone who would like to come and sit on the carpet. We're going to have time together this morning. Small, large, no matter who you are, you're welcome to come to the carpet. I was looking at Christmas cards the other day and realizing that so many of them have something the same on them. And I have a few pictures of, on those pictures are Christmas scenes. Oh yeah, okay, so good. Here we go. And on those Christmas scenes, there is so often a star. Look at all of them that I found that have stars, and there's so many more. Some must be about stars at Christmas, I'm thinking, if so many stars show up on our pictures. In the Christmas story, the wise men, or the magi, traveled a long way, and they followed a star until they got to Bethlehem and they found that baby. So stars have become a symbol of Christmas because they help us remember that all of us need help getting to where we're going sometimes. The Magi needed the help of a star to see at night and to lead the way. But we all need help finding our way sometimes. It's true. Now, before there was Google, and before there was satellites and maps and everything that we could find on our phones, travelers all over the place, travelers on land and travelers on sea, used the stars to find their way. If they were on a ship, they would look and see particular stars that they knew about, like there's on the left. It's hard to see. Do you see that star right there? So it says that that's Regulus. That's a big star in our sky. And then there's the moon. So if the sailor knew where Regulus was and knew where the moon was, and they did a little bit of math, because they went to school and learned math, they could figure out what direction they were going and how far they had to go. Pretty amazing, hey? Yeah, all without Google Maps. But so sometimes our help comes from the stars and our guidance comes from the stars. But sometimes it comes from other places too. Sometimes we need help getting to where we're going, and we don't need stars, but maybe we need friends or parents or special stories that we read to help us kind of figure out which way do we want to go. What decisions do we want to make? What do we want to be when we grow up? All those questions, we need guidance. We need the help of friends and family and books and stories and all those kinds of things. So it's amazing of all the ways that we need that kind of help. Our world is pretty amazing. We've got this giant star in our sky that lights our daytime. Well, that's a sun, actually. That's our sun. It's just a close-up picture, and we don't usually see it kind of all funny like that, but that's the way our sun looks if you look really, well, you're not supposed to look really close at it, but if you have special equipment and blah, blah, blah. So we've got this amazing star in our sky that lights our daytime, and then we've got all these stars that light our nighttime that are actually even brighter than our sun star, but they're just much further away. So we've got all of these things, and this on the right, this is a map of what we can see in Edmonton right now, what kind of stars are in our sky. So we can see a lot of fancy stars. We can see Arcturus, which is a bright star in our sky, and we can see lots of different patterns in our stars right now. Outside, if we go out, we can see the dippers, right? The little one and the big one here in Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. We can see tons of things in our sky if we go out and have a clear night. Yeah, right. And Perseus up there at the top. So, this season of Christmas is really special because in our story we talk about stars, and it reminds us that there are lots of people and lots of things that can help us along our way. And that's really great. So I wish I could give you a star today for a Christmas present, but they're really hard to pack. And they're really hot. So I can't really give you a star, but, wouldn't it be great to have light in your pocket all the time? Oh, wait, we've got our phones. Yeah, you're right. Wouldn't it be great to have directions whenever you need them? Oh, wait, got your phone, right. Wouldn't it be great to have warmth if you're feeling cold? A heater under your jacket. Perfect. Well, I can't give you a real star and I can't give you a phone. So I'm going to give you a star. It's just a paper star. But it's going to remind us that we always need help. And it's so wonderful that we people acting like ones that act like stars and show us great ways to go. So I've got a few stars here, and
sitting on the front step of the farmhouse, a long ways from city lights, on October the 14th of 1957, I sat and I watched a 60-centimeter sphere traveling 29,000 kilometers an hour around the Earth. Sputnik 1 had just gone into the atmosphere. 96 minutes later, I was out to see it again. Yuri Gagarin was the first man in space in April of 1961. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon in July of 1969. From the days of the Cold War and mistrust, the space race made great improvements in technology, communication, miniaturization, and medicine. From the mistrust to cooperation with the International Space Station, where the Russians, the US, and many, many more are working cooperatively in space. This gives me hope.
As far as I can remember, every time I sought solace, I would lie down on the ground and look up at the stars. And at that moment in time, lost in the immensity, I felt that it was a great privilege to know that I am part of all of this. Call it the universe with a capital U, the creator with a capital C, God with a capital G. I was part of it, I was born from it, and I'll return to it. And to me, to have that understanding calms me.
When my daughter phoned me and told me that she was going to have a baby, I remember thinking a couple of things. One is that this young woman is now a new mother, and I've been wishing this for her for years. I thought that motherhood would change her dramatically and would give her a sense of what her parents were like. I thought it would increase her understanding of her own parents, because it felt to me like I needed a better relationship with my daughter. So when I heard her news of her impending child being born, I couldn't contain my own excitement. When I heard the news from her on the phone, I started laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing for a couple of minutes. I don't think that she yet understands why I was so excited about that impending birth, because to me it felt like something new for her, a growth in her life, and a chance for a new start. And in fact, that is exactly what has happened. And probably the most positive experience that I have had in the last year or two. The other grandchild that was born to me was also a positive experience, and we got to participate by helping out those new parents with taking care of their first child and attending to him while the new dad went to the hospital. It was quite a different experience, though, than the first one. The first one was such an exciting change and a chance for something new. And that is something that really made me connect to the story of the shepherds, because they were doing something about taking care of their flocks in the field. They were not doing something that was exciting, and they weren't doing something that really meant waiting. It meant tending. But when they got the good news that Christ was coming, that gave them a sense of anticipation and excitement. And it seems to me that it would have felt very much to them like I felt at the birth of my first grandchild of the year.
Would you like to meet the innkeeper? Because I would. The innkeeper is a character in this drama that we don't hear a lot about. But the more I think about it, the more I'd like to meet the innkeeper. Because the innkeeper could have taken such a different position. And Mary's experience and the birth of her baby would have been totally different. The innkeeper didn't put up the no vacancy sign, as far as we know. But the innkeeper didn't say, you can't stay. He said, I have no rooms in the inn, they're full. But if you would find help in the warmth and the shelter of the barn with the animals, it might be much better than being out on the road. And how grateful Mary must have been. And I think it made all the difference for a safe delivery for her and for the child. And so my question is, how can we all be innkeepers? How can we all not say, I don't have enough time. I have given enough money. I don't have any more. I just can't do that because I'm too busy. Can we be innkeepers? And I'd really love to meet him. I wonder what made him the way he was.
This is an excerpt from a poem written by Carol Martinaco named The Everything Seed. Long ago, way back before the beginning, so long ago there was no such thing as time, because there was no one there to count it. In that deep, waiting dark, in the rich soil of space, something that wasn't a seed, although like a seed, awoke, broke open, unfolding and blossoming forth into an enormous blazing ball of bright light, like a great grandmother sun. And the universe was born. Out fluttered all the energy that was needed for everything. And yet in ways that were still yet to be known. The building blocks of galaxies and stars, the source of planets and oceans and animals and us. And what once began in a blazing blossom of light continues. New stars sprout open in the deep soil of space. New plants and animals appear on the earth. Seeds of all kinds are scattered all over this planet. And new people are born every day with the spark of that first light still alive and burning deep, deep inside of them. Just waiting to shine in ways that are yet to be known. These are the poetic writings of a Canadian author. May we find wisdom for our living.
I've had the privilege of being present for 3 births as well as the birth of my own son. And when you have your own child in a hospital, it's a very different experience because you're really focused on a lot of the physical aspect of just the giving birth part and dealing with the pain and how long it's all taking. But when you have that privilege of being in the room or being around when someone else is giving birth, you have a moment, you have this kind of moment in time to really think about what you're witnessing here. It's so raw, and whether it's in a hospital or at home or in a barn or in a stable, the beings, the people who are around are seeing the very beginning of someone's conscious life. And that's a real bonding experience, both between you and the parents, in particular the mother who's giving birth, but also with that child. I don't know how nurses and doctors do this because they do multiples of these every day and every night, and then they continue on with their lives. But for me, with the 3 I've had this wonderful opportunity to be part of, those are experiences I hope I'll never forget. And I hope that those are experiences that continue to sort of draw us together. So recently, I had the chance to be there when my grandson Tyler was born, and my sweetheart had the amazing privilege of actually catching him as he was born, and the experience emotionally is so strong that you just can't help but be impacted by that, and it's hard to put it in words. I'm stumbling for words right now. It's majestic, it's raw, it's sounds and smells and sights that you just don't see in your regular day. And it's so sanitized in movies and books and television. These babies come out, even in Call the Midwife, they clean everything up and the baby is a few days old already. But here you see this baby and this brand new being with legs and arms and heads and a little cry, and they're all covered in stuff, and you're in love. You're just in love with this baby right away. You can't help it. And I guess when I come to Christmas, I look at that and think about how I just smile when I see a woman who's pregnant, or a father holding a little baby, and that I just smile when I see that intimacy, because you feel like you're part of it. Even if you don't even know them, you feel like you're part of it because you have that incredible privilege to observe, be a witness to this, what still seems miraculous, not necessarily in a God-ordained way, but it's a miracle that just that egg, just that sperm, just that second, this amazing thing happened to continue to propagate the species of humans.
Every birth is amazing and truly miraculous. I've been seeing babies for probably over 30 years as a pediatrician, and I still see newborns, and every time I see newborns, I think, this is so miraculous as I hold them in my hands. Births are, nothing can compare to births. Nothing changes the lives of the parents more than the birth of the first child. And every birth, I believe, is life-changing and therefore world-changing, because a birth of a child into my family, a birth of a grandchild into my children's families, a birth of a child into any family changes that family, and that changes the world. I think that all lives are world-changing. My life was totally changed by the birth of my last child. I do what I do because of that child's life, and because he was born, and because of the issues and problems that he had. Those are all things that every family faces every time a child is born. Birth is miraculous. It's amazing. And it's world-changing.
Praise
On this morning, when we tell the ancient tradition of Christmas in many ways, in story, in song, in symbol, we're sharing with each other how this season and this story intersect with our lives. It's in this way that we're recognizing that a story is never just a story. It can be a window into our very being. A story can be a mirror held up to our lives. A story can be a lens through which we see our world. A story can be a compass by which we express our values and live what is most important to us. When we hear these stories from our storytellers this morning about the impact of the stars and the night sky in their lives, or the importance of welcoming and including new members of family, or the significance of birth, or how their lives have intersected with the wonder and openness of experiencing difference and diversity, or the challenge of peace within ourselves and in our world. These are just hints of the stories we all have and we all share about the significance of these impactful and life-changing events in our lives, and the stories we have to tell them, to share them, to wrap them in. Isn't it remarkable that an ancient story like the Christmas story can evoke in us a curiosity that keeps us wondering in such a way that the story continues to be written in us and through us every day of our lives? It's a real gift that in our telling of our stories today, in video, in story, in song, stories I hope that evoke memories in you, stories of your own, that we proclaim the wonder of Christmas and the awe-inspiring ways that it continues to expand, that it continues to evolve, that Christmas and all its traditions never stays put, but continues to have new meanings for us. So much so that, as the poet has written, that we remember life is born every day with the spark of that first light of the cosmos still alive and burning deep inside, just waiting for each of us to shine in ways that are yet to be known. May it be so today, and may it be so every day through this Christmas season for each one of us.
The story of the Magi reminds me that you do not have to be from a particular culture or religious background to celebrate and to appreciate and to participate in the momentous occasions of other religions or cultures. I had the unexpected gift this year of traveling to Thailand and participating in the New Year's celebrations there. I had the opportunity to be blessed by a Buddhist monk, and this reminds me of the story of the Magi because it was a gift that I was given even though I did not belong to that culture regularly, and yet it was extremely meaningful. I also had the opportunity to travel to Burma, where I participated in the religious New Year celebrations there, and while I gave the gift of incense, I received the gift of being able to celebrate with many people and to share in their happy experience that day.
We were studying an essay about a well-educated Canadian woman who has chosen to wear the hijab. And so I was asking my students who wear the hijab, because those students are very common in class now, about it. And a student explained to me that no, it's not a particular religious thing. It's part of that, but it's a cultural thing. So, for example, the Puritans were Christians, but they believed in wearing black, just like I am doing today. And so what she explained from the Quran is that one should dress in a modest way. And that's one response to dressing modestly.
7 years ago, Dennis, my husband, died, and shortly after his death, I accepted full-time employment at an agency in North Edmonton called the Africa Center. And for the next 3 years, I was immersed in the lives of families of African and Middle East heritage. And I learned so much more about the people I worked with. Hearing the stories of the women particularly, talking about why they came to Canada, what brought them here, the challenges they faced as they tried to fit in with many of our ways of doing things that were so foreign to them, and the strength they brought to all of those. And they shared repeatedly that, and individually, that they were doing that to make a better life for their children. I learned, again, I was so impressed with their compassion, their wisdom, and how they really accepted me as somebody who talked differently, who looked differently, and yet just one really big family. And the barriers around the other just seemed to melt away. It really reaffirmed my belief in the global family and how really critically important it is, for me at least, to try and be as inclusive as I can, to learn from people who appear different than I am, and to really accept those differences. So the gifts they gave me were amazing.
So it was a miracle to have children. For me, it was a miracle. But when I say that, I realize that my situation was so ideal compared to so many women who give birth. And I'm just so aware of that as the more I think about it, how grateful I am that my children were born into non-abusive situations where they would be fed and warm and looked after. And there were no bombs, and there were no street scenes and violence and things where we were. So the beauty of a child arriving to a safe place is quite overwhelming also, and especially in today's world.
The world that we have today is a place of great anxiety and fear. There are just so many negative messages being twittered all over the world and everything. So to find that place of peace in this world is a little bit like when I was visiting the chapel of Shepherd's Field, which is run by Franciscan fathers. We were there at a particular time of the day when from the dome above, light came in and shone exactly on the child Jesus. And so to me, that is the sign of hope and peace and joy that the angels were singing about, but it doesn't happen every day. It's almost an illusion because it depends on whether the sun shines that day. And the sun can shine in many ways. It can be the physical sun, or it can be the sun within ourselves. And I've seen that sun in my life many times. As a teacher, when students got it, they learned it, they were so thrilled and pleased with their successes. I've seen it in my grandchildren's eyes, my children's eyes, and in the eyes of friends who are at peace. There's those moments in life when you've gotten over some hurdles And it feels like you are one. And Jesus came to give us a message about how do we stand together to break through the darkness and to keep the light of peace within us.
When I think about peace at this time of the year, in this part of the world, with our long nights, I think of winter solstice and wrapping myself in blankets and settling into a reflective meditation. I love the night sky and its twinkling stars. And when I look at them, I feel connected with the humans and the more than humans who look to the stars to remember where we are. Stars are one guide for living, I think. If we could look into each other's eyes with the same curiosity that we look to the stars to try to understand each other's needs, that's what I would hope for. Because when I think of peace, it's a feeling that we are beginning to understand each other's needs, that we're honoring dignity. It's the feeling that happens when the walls and the defenses fall, when breathing is steady. If people had what they need to be able to look up into that blue velvet sky and see those sparkling stars, then I think that would be a feeling of peace for everyone to feel safe and connected.
A gathering in a morning like this doesn't happen without a lot of preparation, a lot of hard work, and a lot of very dedicated people. And so it's fitting then to close our time together with some gratitude. Gratitude for so many people, for our choirs and for their leaders, for our musicians, for our storytellers, for our sound and video technicians and our video editor. Many, many thanks. And if we could together show our gratitude for this wonderful thing. As we go into this day, we recognize that Christmas is just beginning. That in our spirits, in our hearts, the spirit of love and joy, the spirit of peace that we speak about, the way that birth continues to have meaning in our lives, the way we continue to live this Christmas story is just beginning. May it be for us inspiration as we move into the days ahead, and may we take with it our joy of music, our joy of story, and our joy of the Christmas season for all we meet. May we go in that Christmas peace.